Good morning, good evening, everywhere in the planet, which is awesome. And again, I'm Nancy Reyes Lumen, having a good time. We were discussing earlier with our special guest on all the topics that she will be sharing with us. And I'm very happy and proud to introduce because she's a friend of mine. She's 100% certified foodie. She's 100% great cook, actually a chef in her own right. And one who advocates planting, cooking, enjoying organic produce, and many other things that you can do with it, from fermentation to pickling to storing to everything. We will hear all that from our friend. But most of all, we will also learn something new about the walk. We always thought that we knew everything about the walk, the heat and all that.
Oo.
But the walk, she will talk to us about the walk like it has its own persona, and that will be as a very new word or a term called walk. Hey, let me now introduce to you a friend of mine, somebody who I admire for all her cooking skills and knowledge. None other than, let us welcome Miss Leia Ko. Hi, Leia.
Hello, good
And
evening,
incident,
Nancy.
yeah, and
Hello to the world.
yes, and incidentally, we are right now both in Houston, so we're also discovering new places and new tastes of Houston. And before you even start, there's already somebody greeting you. Said Desiree Mendoza. Go, Auntie Leia. All right, Leia. Before we go into so many details, tell us about yourself. Tell us your story. Tell us your culinary DNA. You know, where did you get your cooking um expertise?
I've always cooked all my life. I suppose I started cooking maybe about 10 years old because I am the eldest and I'm the only sister.
Mm-hmm, sorry.
Also, uh, my mom fed as well.
Yes.
I stand on the shoulders of my mom, whom I witnessed cook many wonderful things. Um, but my father's family is also a group of foodies.
Wait, you're
Uh,
pure Chinese? Both?
Almost. My father's family. My father came from China with his parents, my grandparents, and they settled in Mindanao.
Oh.
So my grandparents are in the they have a store in the old market. They sold many foodstuffs, cooked things, bought and sold things. My grandmother, do you know what typo is?
What's
uh,
that?
Radishes that are sun dried and preserved.
Uh-huh.
So she would during the season of radishes, she would make many portions of that, and she's that's one of her well-known dishes.
Mm-hmm.
And in Mindanao during that time, there was no, the normal chicken that we know now, the chicken that is soft. All the chicken were native chickens. So I remember that she would store or keep the smaller ones that are soft enough to fry or grilled, because everything else will have to become soup
Yeah.
or stew, because the meat is harder, but of course we all know they're more tasty.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's my father's side. My
Oh.
mother, all my life, I've watched her make so many things. She has excellent knife skills with one sharp cleaver.
Uh-huh.
I Yeah, our we grew up when we grew up seeing vegetables, carrots always as flowers or butterflies.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be I mean, that's a daily thing. That's a daily thing. I think maybe she, because my father's family are foodies, I think she probably learned to cook to please, my dad, and also to be a good housewife and mother.
Mhm.
She's an artist, so she's very good with her hands. She saws, so she would make things like, the empanada kaliskis.
Yeah.
I've seen her. Oh, she would make her own buchi, maha, uh, make her own bacon and ham, and and she made us very curious eaters.
Mhm.
So I'm the eldest. I'm the only girl, and I have three brothers. So she would bring home so many things from the market. So every time she comes home from the market, it's always we are always in anticipation of some creature she would bring home. So we were fed things like rabbit or alupihang dagat. Uh, Even with vegetables, we were arurusip and
Uh-huh.
lago, the seaweeds. Also, imbabao, you know that? Imbabao.
Yung shell?
No, they look like worms. They
Yeah.
are for
Oo.
dinding.
Oo.
So my mother's
Ah, oo, oo.
mother is Ilocana,
Mm.
and then my mother's father is Chinese from
Yeah.
China. Yeah. So uh, I remember one of the dishes that me and my brothers would fight over would be paksiw na laman loob of the bangus.
Ah, oh, sarap
because
nun.
because it only happens on the day that she goes to market, right? Because when she comes home, when she cleans the fish, she has to make sure the bile doesn't burst and
Yeah.
collect all of the innards, and
Yeah.
that is a very small amount of deliciousness that,
Sarap.
yeah, that we fight over. So basically, she takes the trouble to make really good things. So I was fed well growing up. Um, she
Ah,
has so my mother and grandmothers are people who slaughter for, chickens and ducks, for food. So that's something that was natural for me to witness. Also to pluck things from the garden to augment whatever is missing in the kitchen. So we always have some things that are useful in the garden, like silly. I mean, even in pots, you don't really have to have a big garden, but you can always have alugbati or talbos ng kamote, greens, things that you can add when you don't have enough vegetables. So,
how old
I,
were
I
you then? How old were you when you started being conscious about all these?
about these things,
Yeah.
I think I was always watching from the stairs because I was always watching what's happening in the kitchen. But I think I probably started making rice and helping out, or making small dishes that I could manage, maybe when I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. But I thought that was normal uh, with everyone, because when in high school, I assumed that everybody can cook.
Cool. Yeah.
But every time we go out of town in high school or in college, I always end up being the one going to the market and budgeting the food and making the meals. So I suppose I was more equipped, managing myself in the kitchen earlier than usual.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I got married, I married into a family who loves to eat. And
Okay.
so that now gave me an audience, people who would let me cook whatever I want and appreciate it and consume them. So that was the beginning of my own search, or lifelong learning about food. At that time, there was no cooking show yet. There was no internet. There was no YouTube. There was no. So I learned from books. Um, I learned from. I would read cookbooks from cover to cover.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of cookbooks. I there were I also learned from the people that I would eat. Let's say if I eat out and I would taste something different, and I would appreciate the perspective of the cook.
Yeah.
No? So many things and many experiences, travels, and many people shaped my culinary experience.
Okay. So, what would you remember the very first best dish that you ever cooked at your young age?
My own,
Yeah, your own. When you
pancit
were
canton.
already, huh?
Pancit
Talaga?
canton
It's
and
not
fried
easy.
rice.
It's
Pancit
not.
canton and
Yeah.
fried rice. Yeah.
But people think that's hard. It's not easy to cook that because there's a lot of preparations you have to make and pre-cooking, diba?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I cooked it for my mother's birthday.
Mm. Miswa
But
or
fried rice, I would cook that for my younger brothers when they're hungry and there's nothing to eat. So I was also at a very young age able to collect scraps from the leftover. So that has always been with me. I People ask me like, "What's your specialty? Is it Chinese food? Is it Filipino food? Is it Italian food? Is it French food?" Is because I cook all sorts of things. So um, I would say it's leftover cooking where I am best at.
which brings us to you were mentioning before tutong.
Mm.
Tutong or the leftover rice that has become crispy under or what you would call sokarat, di ba?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes,
What did
yes.
you do with tutong that how did you make it special?
And well, I copied from different cultures. For example, the Koreans would pour hot soup or hot water into the pot and to make it into some kind of porridge
Mm-hmm.
that would be consumed after the meal, as a form of comforting, like a soupy kind of rice porridge.
Uh-huh.
So that's one way to go about it.
Mm.
Uh, but the the value of because you can see tutong as a negative thing, or to see it that it has a value, that it is like the sokarat of the
Yes.
Spaniards, that's where the flavor or the rice is actually frying in the olive
Yes.
oil,
Yes.
right?
Mismo.
So when I cook fried rice or even garlic rice, right? Garlic rice. So I would love to encourage some little bits of tutong, right? Because a little bit is really wonderful in the mix of the fried rice.
You know how my mom would take tutong? She would pour coconut milk or sometimes milk and it would be really more crispy and a little sugar. Parang siyang ang
Wow!
pao. Hindi ba ang pao?
Wow! Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That will be wow.
Now we go further kasi to the audience, I don't know where to start with Leia's interest. But it started when she also showed me a book where she's a participant, and it talked about community gardens. We'll ask her to talk about this, but inside, she shared a recipe that I tried even without knowing who she was at first, and this is adobong beetroot, which was a when I did that, I liked because I really like beetroot. But when I showed that, I got so many reactions, almost mga 200, Leia. So that means that there was an interest. So and then since then I started to pursue you, and here we are now. Okay. So let's
Can
hear.
I can I can I tell the story about that recipe, how it evolved?
Sure, of course.
So yeah, it's connected to this book, and I have been a supporter, an active supporter of a social enterprise called Good Food Community Inc.
Okay.
So it was started. The idea was started by Miss Charlene Tan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the idea is that the organic farmers are organized. These are smallholders. What does that mean? That means these are families where they're really planting on the in their own backyards. They're
Mm-hmm.
consuming it for themselves. So Char, short for Charlene, encourage them to produce more than what their family could consume. So it started with the wives. So the husbands would have day jobs, like they would
Farmers.
tricycle drivers or vendors, yeah, or construction workers, and the mothers or the wives would uh, practice organic farming uh, in their backyards. So Shar had this idea of organizing them and then finding people in the city who would be interested in buying that produce.
Okay.
So it's a social enterprise because it's a subscription. What that means is that you commit to buying whatever the farmer produces.
Okay.
In that way, they are assured of their income.
Mm-mm.
At the same time, they can just concentrate on giving you the best that the soil can produce.
Is there a beneficiary location? Meron, did you choose a special place or community area?
Uh, it started in Tarlac,
Hmm.
but from there, now there's also a group from Bauco in Mountain Province because lowland vegetables have a limitation because of the weather. Right? So she had to also so the group had to look for also other groups up in the mountain, because city folks are looking for upland vegetables as well.
Uh-huh.
And then now we are also they not we I consider myself as part of them, but actually I'm not the one who's doing the work with the farmers. um, they also now include indigenous people. So usually the produce would be ginger, turmeric, root crops
Mm-hmm.
for the indigenous groups,
Okay.
like the Daraitans of Rizal,
Uh-huh.
ay in
Ano
Daraita
yun?
Rizal. Ano nga ba yung kanilang, sorry, right now
All
it's
right.
skipping my mind right now. So the challenge of cooking or consuming vegetables like this. Everybody likes the idea, but it's not as simple because people are not used to eating seasonally. Because if you're going to rely on organic food or organic vegetables, you need to follow the season. You cannot just say, no, today I want chop suey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to kind of follow. Well,
Mm-mm.
it's not the season for chop suey
Yeah.
vegetables. Right now, it's the season for pinakbet vegetables. So,
Right.
you kind of have to uh, follow what the environment and the soil would give, which
Mm-hmm.
is a challenge for people in the city who are used to just picking or choosing from the supermarket or the regular markets. What's so bad about that? Well, what is that? It drives commercialization of vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
which means that it doesn't matter whether they're going to use a lot of chemicals, as long as you produce those blemish-free vegetables that people want to choose,
Uh-huh.
and that they want it any time of the year. So what we are poisoning will be the soil. So it's not like the harm is just that, but the harm goes on in the years to come, because the soil will no longer be. It takes many years to reverse the damages of that. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's a social enterprise, because what that means is that it's not only it's not only supplier and customer. It's not only the two trying to gain from each other. I mean, trying to get one over the other. It's a social enterprise because it's inclusive. It's like I get the vegetables I want. I pay a fair price, but
Mm-hmm.
the farmers themselves also are guaranteed a fair return for their efforts.
Yeah, that worked before with Old Kano when he was starting his basil production for the restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
The hotels and the restaurants had to commit to him to a certain price all season, all year. No,
Yeah.
so if the price for lettuce also would be higher,
Mm-hmm.
they'd still have to pay the same price. If the
Yes.
manpower would be the same. So
Yes. Yes.
that
And and
works very well.
and and chefs who are it's very good that now there's a lot of awareness, and there are a lot of chefs also who are interested in putting in the effort to help uh, encourage and all support, and
Mm-hmm.
also help in developing better products. So like the very famous Toyo Eatery in
Mm-hmm.
Manila,
Yeah,
right, which is a premier
yeah,
restaurant,
yeah.
has worked with a good food community
Uh-huh.
to produce the really great cherry tomatoes, very good quality cherry tomatoes. This happened before the pandemic. So
Uh-huh.
when the pandemic hit, and of course all restaurants were closed, there was the overproduction of these tomatoes that the farmers were left with.
Uh-huh.
And so I also help market them in with my neighbors. So
Okay.
started taking pictures of them, telling my neighbors about them. So we were able to move these vegetables even during the pandemic.
Okay. But remember you were telling me when you were in Italy, there was this chef, famous chef, who was using all the trimmings and he had a soup kitchen.
Yes, Massimo Bottura.
Yes, Massimo Bottura, yeah. Sana, I hope there will be more chefs like that, like Toyo, and even in a community, a house that would be doing that, and then sharing the produce. Anyway,
So the book,
uh,
the book came about because of the pandemic.
uh,
So yes, because there was hunger happening, and part of the efforts was to help people learn to do community gardening and community kitchens, and to help feed other people.
well, you
So
know what? Before we forget, can you tell them if this is still available, Leia?
it is. It is.
Well,
I believe so. With Good Food Community, they could just go to the website of Good Food Community.
okay, all
Yes,
right.
and I'm sure that so Good Food Community has a Good Food Sundays, which is a Sunday market on Shaw Boulevard. Um, it's along Shaw Boulevard. I'm sure there are like posters. So every Sunday, it stopped, of course, during the pandemic, but it's back now. So
Oh, good.
it's a Sunday market where people will find many organic produce, like-minded people, and over there, if you eat there, uh, you would also see places where you can wash your own dishes,
Mm-hmm.
and also set aside things for composting. So it's the whole lifestyle, And so if people out there are interested in finding people who are like-minded people, they can visit that. It's a Sunday market on Shaw Boulevard in Mandaluyong.
Okay. From there, you also got into, we talked about bokashi,
Yeah,
fermentation.
so over there are also talks, uh, guest speakers to to share skills and lifestyle abilities in order to do these things like fermenting, making things like kimchi, uh, and also using bokashi. Rina, I believe her name is Rina. She would do seminars for free there in Good Food Sundays to talk about how to do composting at home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So wait, we were talking about the adobo beets.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
We
kasi
did-
I might
I
forget that
know.
people
Yes,
might
it's
want to
part
buy
of.
this eh.
Yeah. So that is a collection of that is really a collection of recipes that many chefs contributed to that. You could see many chefs
Yeah.
contributed to it. Yeah. So that was a project that came about after the pandemic or during. We're still in the pandemic actually.
Yeah. Well.
So so it was because of all the recipes that came about in trying to cook with the produce that was available and helping to feed people
Okay.
who were going
Beetroot
hungry.
adobo.
Hmm?
Beetroot adobo na. Beetroot
Beetroot
adobo.
adobo. So one Sunday, so I would, because I am a supporter of this group, I'm often asked to cook for events or, like, okay, we have a lot of these this vegetable. What can you make things to so that we can share with people how to consume them, because it's a balance between what grows easily the because our climate is warm, uh root crops really grow better,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
our soil is not dry, so we're it's our farmers can produce radishes and beetroots very well, yakon, these things very
Mm-hmm.
well, but people in the city are not so familiar. They would see it in the restaurant, maybe order a dish, but
Yeah.
we need to develop more recipes wherein people can eat them on a regular basis, because they will find it in their tampipi or in their bayong, subscription bayong, and so, okay, what will I do with this again, no? So so one day I was invited to produce or to make some food for an event on one of the Good Food Sundays, and that was what I was the raw material I was given was beetroot.
Mm-hmm.
So I used coconut oil, and then I put the so this is the original. So from the coconut oil, I put the spices that you use, or the spices that you use for adobo, which is laurel, garlic, and
Yeah.
paminta,
Uh-huh.
or peppercorns. No? So from there, then I put the beetroot in cube form, and then I used a heavy pot and I covered it. Now that cooking technique, like I said, I learned from many chefs, or the books that I read. That is a French technique called en cocotte.
Uh-huh.
The caldero is called cocotte, right, in
Yeah.
French, and they have this cooking technique wherein basically you are just trapping the heat and letting the natural moisture from the vegetable cook itself.
Yeah.
So I tried to do that, and it worked very well. When I tasted the beetroot, uh, I was surprised that the coconut oil has like kind of like a natural acidity that even before I added, before you put vinegar, there's already a hint of, it already tasted like adobo because of the spices and the coconut oil.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it all depends on the quality of your beetroot and the quality of your coconut oil. So you can always add some vinegar and some soy sauce to enhance, or even some sweetness if you want that,
Mhm.
because the beetroot is already sweet.
Yes.
So there was also no necessity to do that. So I
Mhm.
brought that dish as one of the dishes that I cooked that day. And in the same event beside me were the young chefs, Chef Ralph, the young chefs of Purple Yam,
Ah,
the
okay.
restaurant, the famous restaurant of Amy
Anime.
Besa.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they were they were actually preparing for a menu for a I think vegetarian guest, and then they tasted my beetroot adobo and they asked if they could use my recipe. And I said, sure, yeah, go ahead. And I think it's a, so I think that many of, now the age of Instagram and YouTube, an idea would take take flight, will grow wings and take flight. So I could
Mhm.
also see that many people are already doing their own versions of it.
I did, and I love it.
That's great. That's great. So that's the story of the beetroot adobo and the and good food community.
Okay. Anyway, in addition to that, Leia, may isa pang ano may isa pang an added procedure you can do. You don't throw the skin or the peel. You can use it to dye clothes, tela,
Mm-hmm.
or, di
Mm-hmm.
ba? Pampaan mo. They said if you eat beetroot adobo or whatever it's cooked for mga 3 days, you will develop rosy
Rosy
cheeks.
cheeks.
Oo.
Natural blush.
Oo, and it's really a healthy veggie anyway. Yeah. I love you for that beetroot adobo. That started a romance.
Yes.
Okay. So now, okay, you have a very rich culinary DNA from both your parents, and then you had an audience with your in-laws. What are you doing now? How are you cooking? What are you cooking? Tell me everything.
What am I cooking?
Yeah, how are you cooking?
I try to cook with the season. That's really an integral part of how I cook.
Uh-huh.
And also, I've always been no waste, so nose to tail, fruit to root type of cook. So, for example, if I'm peeling vegetables, for example, if I peel carrots or uh, tomatoes, peppers. Okay, why do I peel tomatoes? Okay, so
Uh-huh.
um, I would judge from the vegetable whether sometimes I'm not back home, so I don't have my good foods supply right now. So I'm in Houston. So one of the things that I find challenging here in the U.S. is tomatoes. They're
Mm-hmm.
not as tasty as our tomatoes, or
Really?
they look red, and they look red, but they're actually not ripe. They just look red. So
Um,
I would buy uh I've tried many types of tomatoes already. So now what I do is I would buy the cheapest tomato, which is usually the Roma, and
Yes.
then leave it out in the counter to let it ripen for a
Yeah.
few more days, right?
Yeah,
But
baby.
yeah, so but in addition to that, sometimes if I need to use it already, but I think the skin is, the problem is with tomatoes is that the really good tomatoes, the skins are very thin,
Mm-hmm.
which makes them very difficult to sell, because the handling becomes very difficult. So like, let me digress. In Manila or in the Philippines, our dishes start with a lot of sofrito, right? The garlic, onions,
Masyado.
tomatoes. But that kind of tomato used to be the heirloom tomatoes that looks like the parang miniature pumpkin, that
Pink
shape.
cushion. Parang pink
Right?
cushion. Yung
Pincushion, yes, yes, yes,
bulaklakin.
yes.
Oo.
Yes, so once a year, you will see a vendor with a cariton that's still selling that, but it is double the price. Whenever I see them, I always buy because there's
Yes.
already very few people who are willing to plant them. But
Uh-huh.
those kinds of tomatoes, when you do the sauteing, they melt, right? You know that they melt away and they become part of the sauce.
Yes.
But the modern tomato, no matter how much you saute it, how long you saute, they will still be chunky. And
Uh-huh.
part of the reason is the skin, because
Uh-huh.
they are grown to have thicker skin so that you can wrap them up in plastics and put them in the supermarket, and they won't get, and they're one thing on one bag on top of each another,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still fine. So what I do is that I would buy a peeler with teeth, and I will peel the tomato. So
Oh.
even if I don't peel it, even if I don't, I know you can blanch it to peel it or to bake it to peel it, but sometimes the application is not for something cooked. I would use the peeler with teeth, and I don't have to take off everything, but sometimes I take off some of it. The same thing with peppers. Actually, the skin of the peppers is
Yeah.
the one that is harder to digest.
Yes.
That is the part that's harder to digest. But all of these peels don't get thrown away. I put them immediately into a little pot,
Mm-hmm.
and then I add water, and then if I, let's say, so I also have mushrooms. I would put the whatever trimmings, the stalk, and put it there, and then and that would immediately make a beautiful stock for you that you could use for soup, for for a pasta, for
You
many
know what
things.
I do with the tomato skin? I torch
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah. So back home, back in Manila, when I have good food supply, tomato is a fruit. It's
Yes.
right. So all vegetables that are fruit like tomatoes, upo, kalabasa, pumpkin, um, all these fruit-like vegetables, zucchini, eggplant, you need to think of them that the season is also like fruit, meaning they will start to come in the beginning of their season, a few, and then there
Mm-hmm.
will be a peak, like there's so much of them, and
Yes.
then they will die down. Then one day they're gone.
Uh-huh.
They won't come again until the next season. So it's important that, for example, during tomato season, when there's a lot of tomatoes, we also have to eat more of it, or make more dishes with it, in order to support the season, support the farmers. So what I used to do with the tomatoes I get from Good Food when it's in season is I cut them in half, and then I would have a baking sheet, the baking sheet with olive oil, salt, maybe some herbs, and then the tomato halves, I would put them
Face down.
in face down in rows like that, and then I would bake that. Then when you bake that, the skins would very easily slip off. You can
Yeah.
just, right, and then I would put that in a bottle, and pour olive oil in it. So that's, you can use that by itself, as a bread topping, a bruschetta topping. You can use that for pasta. You can, there are just so many uses for it. But it's, you've already froze time for that vegetable.
Yeah. Very good. Halfway pa lang, I'm already learning a lot, but I think you can be more, go more into details about your cooking and the things that we can learn from you by the photos. Diba?
Mm.
So let's start sharing the photos of Leia ko. And Leia, will be very happy to have you share those. Dali ah, dali lang. Dali lang po. Okay. There you go. Okay, I want to go. Ito muna.
So that's one of the good food Sundays.
Ah,
So that's the
okay.
Sunday market. That's the Sunday market. So there will be. So I was there enjoying myself. I post because I bought that earring, which is made of wood, which is made of wood
Okay.
from a vendor in the market.
But you said ano, it's open again. Balik na
Yes,
talaga.
yes,
Kahit
yes. It's
even
back.
rainy season or pandemic season is ano na talagang
It
given. Pero rainy season, okay din.
I think they are open. I
All
think they
right.
are open because I'm only following also from Instagram and from FB. Nowadays, that's how people find out whether it's going to be on.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Okay ang ano mo diyan ah. Okay. Who is this? Who are these people?
So this is the Good Food Community
Ah, okay. They're kind of
group.
young, huh?
What's that?
It's a mix of young and not so young. Now,
Yes,
oh,
yes, yes.
so it's
And that's our potluck one Christmas. That was pre-pandemic Christmas. I think this was the last Christmas share community table we shared. Uh, yeah, so yes, that's a mix of the people who, the in the middle, the one in red, that's Charlene Tan.
uh-huh,
She's the one who, this is her brainchild, and
uh-huh,
she was the one who started it all.
yeah.
I actually met her by accident because I saw a bayong of vegetables in a coffee shop one day, and I asked about it from the barista, and then he told me, and then he said that, oh, Shar will be coming by to drop off bayongs later. If you want, you can wait for her. So I waited for her, and that was the beginning of our friendship.
Very
And
nice.
yeah, yun na yung start. Yeah.
All right. Is this the same group?
This is a class on fermentation, so kimchi making and fermentation, and the one in the middle in black, that's Mabi David. She's a writer, and she was the one who uh, did this class for, well, invited people through good food, but also through other avenues. So I brought two of my friends, uh, Luz, this one. So this is, how do you, I cannot pala point, wala akong pointer.
Oh,
No? So,
ito.
the
Tell
one
me the
beside
color.
me in green, yeah, that's Luz. And then the one, two people behind me,
Okay.
in the white back, the white shirt with dots, that's
Yeah.
Tess, one of my very, very good friends.
Uh-huh.
So the three of us went to join the class.
Okay. Yeah, no, wait. Let's talk about fermentation. Because what do you teach about it? Hindi lang
Ah,
kimchi, hindi lang kimchi. But the
well,
principle.
yeah. So even up to now, whenever I have leftover vegetables, if you think you cannot finish them, in order for you to preserve them yourself, you can just cut them up and just put them in a clean jar and put some salt water, and cover it up. Um, in my kitchen in Manila, in 4 days, so every day you taste it. And then in my kitchen in Manila, because it depends on the weather and the conditions. So in my kitchen in Manila, in after 4 days, it will start to sour.
Uh-huh.
So then you are successful in making a fermenting it. So that's the natural fermentation that's happening. You know, the whole world, many cultures have different kinds of fermented foods. Of
Yes.
course, the Koreans have kimchi, but sauerkraut is
Mm-hmm.
also a fermented food. In China, there are many kinds of pickles. Um,
Tayo, mga
but
Pinoy.
bagoong, patis, these are all fermented things. And so because it is found in all kinds of cultures,
Burong mangga.
buro, all sorts of buro. Um, Not only is it for preservation, but also it is believed that the there is good bacteria,
Yes, yeah.
probiotics that
Glutamate.
is probiotics that's being developed there. So it's part of introducing good bacteria into your gut when you take it. So that's actually where my interest started, because I had a daughter who was complaining of hyperacidity.
Uh-huh.
So this was earlier than now. There's so much talk on the microbiome or gut health already,
Yes.
because scientists have been studying it for more than 10 years already. But prior to that, any culture in the world has their own fermented um, product. Ginger, the things, typically it's things that's coming from the soil. So
Uh-huh.
because you already have microorganisms within the
The
product
soil.
itself from the soil, right? So like ginger, the original ginger ale is just ginger,
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
and you put a bit of sugar and it will start to ferment and give that fizzy quality. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's not the fizziness is not as strong as a commercial ginger ale, but you can actually make your own ginger beer at
Correct.
home by using real ginger.
So it's really
Beetroot.
just salt and or sugar.
Yes, for me,
Okay.
all the other things are additional flavors. For kimchi, they because Korea is cold. I mean, in our country, in the Philippines, because the climate is warm, fermentation is instantaneous.
Yeah.
It's very fast. Your
Uh-huh.
problem is it running away from you rather than it being too slow. But
Uh-huh.
in Korea, because it's cold,
Mm-mm.
they need to encourage it more. So what the kimchi is they make a porridge with sticky rice flour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they make a porridge, and that's where they put because the porridge, isn't it, when you make lugao or porridge, it will turn sour like the next day. It turns sour
Uh-huh.
very quickly, right? So they use that as a way to encourage faster fermentation because their country or their temperature is colder than ours. So,
Question.
mhm.
Can you kimchi-ice kangkong?
Yeah, you can ferment
Kaya ba?
anything. Yes, you can ferment anything.
So all these
Yes,
farmers na
you
who
can
have
ferment
provided,
anything.
yeah. No,
When
those who we can kimchi anything na that the farmers kasi okay, let me just go with the current events now. With the new administration in the Philippines, magkakaroon na ng focus on agriculture. And as you said, we have to be made conscious about the seasons. So let's say overproduction ng talong. minsan yung mga talong ang daming uod, di ba? Or something. But whatever. What are the gulays or even leafy greens that we can kimchi?
Wait, first is let me answer you about the uod comes when the rains come. So talong, for example, the fruit-like vegetables are best during summer.
Okay.
So in the heat of summer, in the dryness of summer, without the rains, those are the times for the tomatoes and the talong and the ampalaya. So the moment the rains come, then the uuds also, the worms also come. So you find the eggplants with a lot of the worms when it has already started to rain. So they,
Okay.
because that is not the best time anymore for that vegetable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but yeah, for eggplant, we can copy, like if you go to a, for example, Middle Eastern
Mm-hmm.
supermarket, you
Yep.
will see many of these vegetable pate like things like
Yeah.
a baba ganoush. They already bottled that, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
our version is the inihaw na talong na
Mm-mm.
ensalada, right? And
Yeah.
that you can make many types of version, including the one with the burnt coconut milk version from Laguna.
Wow. Kwento mo muna yan
Kulawo.
yung coconut milk na
It,
yan. Alam mo,
it's the dish is called kulawo.
you know what, Leia?
Mhm.
Nagka-tumbling ako kasi ang dami kong gustong tanong.
Yeah.
I'll even show you something. Oh, yung produce
Okra.
mo. Pero ang laki. I forgot to harvest it. I didn't know that, yeah.
They're big already.
So, is this already pampunla,
Yeah,
semilya?
yes, I think so.
Okay, alright. Can I,
I think, yeah, I think
pwede
they're
pa.
quite tough already.
Okay. Oh. Pwede pa. Sarap.
But you can still cut it small and still stew it. We
Yeah.
can learn from the soul food of the African Americans.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
So the dish is called kulawo.
Yes.
That's in famous in Laguna.
Yes.
It's like the kilawin na talong after it's been ihaw, but
Mm-hmm.
the addition of
Coconut.
coconut milk that has been smoked, basically
Yeah.
with the
Wow.
smoked coconut milk. So that's all. I mean, these things can be. I'm not a food tech person, but I think that these are dishes that can be made in bottled forms to preserve them, and so that you can have more uses for our vegetables, for
Oo.
example,
Yeah.
right? So yes, any vegetable that when you mentioned the kangkong. One of the things that I've seen in my travels is the Vietnamese have this tool, which I bought a
Mm.
lot and I gave to many people. Uh, it's a metal stick with many blades. So they shoot it inside the kangkong stem, and when you pull it, the kangkong stem splits into like 6 or 8 pieces. No, so
Yes.
you make like sort of like spaghetti strings
Oo.
from the stems of the kangkong. And nowadays when people are trying to eat low carb, you can also use that as an extender for pasta,
Yeah.
or pancit. Yeah, or the Vietnamese, of course, make a salad out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Ay, nako. Kakagutom. Alright. Let's move to the next one. It's another group. This is another group of people who are learning.
This is people from Alabang. So, as I said, part of what we need to do with the good food community is to find communities of uh,
Subscribers.
subscribers.
Yeah.
Yes. So since the produce come from the north mostly, so Tarlac and also the mountain province. It's mostly, it started in Quezon City, the northern parts of the city. So I have friends in Alabang, and so we, through my friends, we invited groups of their friends, and so we started this. We call them community kitchens. So I would,
Yeah.
yeah, help teach in community kitchens to inspire people to make more out of their vegetables,
Yeah. Okay.
to show them what else they can do to make exciting vegetable dishes for their
Mm.
families.
Yeah, that's good. Even siguro dapat mga yaya na natuturuan din. Anyway, so ano 'tong ulam na niluluto mo?
So this is one of those events, and I normally, it's like a, what do you call this contest, the, the market basket.
Oo.
Normally I also don't know what I'll be given for the day. So this was the day. I believe that is a salad with the ternate leaves. there's
Hmm,
there's the ternate, the blue flowers, the blue
yeah.
pea flowers.
You can eat
And
the leaves? I didn't know that.
yeah, you can eat the leaves. And
Oh,
also, and they're all organic,
yeah.
remember? So you can, and they're
Yeah.
pesticide free. You can eat them. They're also beautiful. And the oranges are also from, we the farmers have surprised us with many types of citruses that even they
Uh-huh.
don't have names. So there's so many types of citruses that would come from the farmers.
Wait a minute, Miss
Mm-hmm,
Leia.
mm-hmm.
What's the logistics? How, so you said from the north, tapos Quezon City. How do the produce get to the community garden? To the subscribers?
Subscribers. Okay. So there are hubs. There are pickup hubs, or
Mm,
so in the beginning, you need to pick them up from the hubs. Like my house is one of the places where people can pick up from. But when the Lala Move and all these delivery services came, you can now also pay extra to have it delivered to your house.
okay.
So, but we started with working with hubs, or sometimes there will be like a coffee shop, or a gelato place
Yeah.
who also subscribes. The owner also subscribes, and they're willing to, have other people pick up from their place. Anyway, those people probably also buy coffee when they
Mhm.
come over to pick up their vegetables, because it's
Yeah.
once a week. Eh.
Okay. All right. So I guess these are more of the people you are
Yeah.
sharing with.
Yeah. So these are more of the things that I would teach and talk about,
Okay.
and let people ask questions about what to do.
If they
Um,
if they
mhm.
want to invite you for something like this, can they do that when you're back in Manila?
Of course, of course.
Okay, good.
I think because I've been subscribing for about 10 years, I'm probably
Oh,
one of their oldest subscribers. So and because I cook many things, and I borrow from many cultures and many types of cuisine.
mhm.
I probably have a lot I have more wiggle room in terms of creativity, in
Yeah.
terms of, finding ways to highlight the vegetables. And so it's a unique combination that I try to share with other people, so that more people can enjoy organic vegetables.
Okay. Again, I think
Yeah,
I chose too many of these classes, but
yeah,
here is the good community again.
yes, yes.
Now I want to go here.
Okay.
I think this will bring us to another topic, but this will already focus on your way of cooking, and that is a wok. And you intrigued me with the term wok hay. So can we hear from you about that? At first, by the way, wok hay is WOK and then HEI,
HEI.
and sometimes it's pronounced wok chi or wok hay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, woke is a Cantonese term, actually. and it refers to the breath of the wok. I don't exclusively only cook with the wok, but it's one of those things that as I said, I would learn from other cuisines. So the wok is, in our case, in Filipino food, would probably relate. We can probably relate to it when it comes to grilling,
Mm-hmm.
how we grill fish, how we, that it's not easy to find people who are good in harnessing heat, making the heat uh, shine. It's kind of like making the heat shine the spotlight on the food you're cooking. Just the right amount of burn, but not making it too bitter. But uh, like they say, you need to have some burnt parts for you to also appreciate the sweetness. One of the also, just like the adobo beets, one of the things that I taught the good food community people in these events is burning the cabbage. So I
Oh,
find that
burning the
cabbages,
cabbage. Wow.
yeah. So I find that cabbages, when you cook them in intense heat in a wok and char the surfaces of it, it then encourages the sweetness to come out. So whether you do it in the oven or you do it in the wok, but don't be afraid to burn your cabbage,
How do you
because
burn it? Like,
what it means is, because sometimes there are things that when you burn, it will be terrible, like garlic. You can't burn garlic because it's gonna be bitter, right? But onions and cabbages, though, they're actually very nice if you burn them. Cabbages, so
ano?
it means that you heat your wok very hot, and
Uh-huh.
then when it's already very hot, you put your oil and just one whole garlic with the skin on so that it doesn't burn easily, and also one dried chili. That's
Mhm.
actually a Chinese dish, dried chili, and then you put the chopped up cabbages. Okay, and then do not put water in it. You can put some
Yeah.
salt, but do not put water in it. So you let it do its thing. Let the wok don't I think the problem is people like to stir too often and too
Yeah.
soon. So you have to kind of, you need to try it, maybe try a small portion, but many people have tried it already after I've showed it to them that
We will do
uh,
it. We do that.
yeah, yeah. It brings out the sweetness in cabbage. So try to burn your cabbage. So syempre, but then when you hear, cooking, it's all of your senses. It's not just your sight, your smell. You're also a great cook, Nancy. Even your ears, right? So
Yep.
you can hear the sizzle, and when it's very loud, there's still a lot of water. When
Yeah.
it starts to become more quiet, there might be some burning happening. So you can just take a look, and of course, we are not talking about making it into carbon. We're not talking about that. But once you see like brown spots happening already, you can. Uh, it's like flipping of like when you're flipping for frying. Just flip so that you char the other places some more.
Okay.
Okay, and it will be a lot more delicious than when you do the same ingredients and you saute by mixing it a lot and
Yeah.
encouraging too much moisture to come out.
Question, you should have a lot of oil or hindi?
No,
Konti
you
lang?
just enough to coat just enough to, and also to flavor, just enough to oil is a carrier of flavor. So the oil's
Hmm.
purpose is really to carry the flavor of the garlic and the chili.
Okay.
That's its purpose. So if not, these two things cannot expand themselves into the dish. But that's all that it's needed as for the oil.
Okay. Oh my gosh. back to back, wall to wall yung mga natututunan namin sa Yole.
There's actually a very famous Cantonese dish uh, that is similar to that, but using romaine lettuces. So instead of a wok,
Oh yeah.
they would use a clay pot and heat the clay pot very very hot. No? So and bring that clay pot into on the table side. This is a table side dish in Hong Kong, and
Uh-huh.
then that's when they put the romaine and cover it. So it's basically just dry heat,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Okay.
that's usually served with a side of bagoong.
Wow. So that is
That
wok
is a
hey.
cat. Yes, that's also okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
So essentially, it's like an ingredient in your cooking. So with the wok hei, you don't need anything. I mean, salt and the vegetable, but it's using the heat as an invisible ingredient, like another thing that you can use to encourage flavor or
uh-huh.
sweeten things.
Okay. Kasi you bring out the natural sweetness of things when you burn them, di ba?
Yes, yes.
I can't wait to do that. Okay. So that was what you were doing, and you were telling me many things about the walk. Na kamuntik ng konti na lang nagkaroon na ng personality yung walk. You were saying there are cold and hot spots in the walk.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh, the wok. Well, we also have it in the Philippines. We call pundido, di ba? The kawali, pundido na kawali, di ba? The cast aluminum.
Kaserola. Kaserola.
Oh, no, the kawali. That's
Okay.
our wok, right?
Oo.
So in well, of course, the Chinese, well, which no, my ancestry is Chinese. There's a lot of wok cooking happening. So my mom is very strict about cooking lumpia. So when we
Okay.
cook Chinese lumpia, uh, my mom is very strict that when we cook lumpia, we cook vegetables individually. We mix them after we cook them individually, right?
Mga,
And it's a sin if there's some liquid that comes out. It means that you did not have enough heat because the sweetness of the vegetables went to that liquid. Because when you wrap your lumpia, you cannot use the liquid,
yes. Yeah.
right? You need to use the only, so but you've already left the sweetness in the water that came out.
Uh-huh.
So you need to have really really hot wok to cook your vegetables so that the the sweetness is retained in the vegetable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So like you were saying also yung when you put oil or something liquid, you you
Yeah,
pour it
okay,
on the
sorry,
side.
I
Yeah.
got sidetracked with
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah,
also do that.
the wok has a sloping side. So of
Mm-hmm.
course, if you're heat in a restaurant, they have high pressure
Yeah.
uh, fire, which we don't have, no. But if you have a thick enough wok, you can let it heat up and it will absorb the heat. So it's hotter in the middle and cooler on the sides.
Uh-huh.
No? So you can sort of control how you play with the heat by moving things around. And then the one thing that I find that people are surprised when they watch me in the classes is that when I, for example, put rice wine into what I'm sauteing, I don't pour the wine into the middle where the vegetables are or whatever it is I'm cooking are. No. So uh, I I pour the rice wine on the spatula and then put it on the side, just on the side where there's no food, but it
Uh-huh.
will drip into the food
Para
because
it will fall.
since the wok is hot, it will immediately evaporate the alcohol and
Mm.
only the sweetness will be only the
Wow.
sweet perfume. No, so it's like
Yeah.
spritzing. It's like, you know how you, when you're going to put perfume, right? You don't just, you know, some people put perfume and walk into it, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Uh-uh.
like that. You know, you put it
Uh-uh.
there so that the alcohol evaporates and only the essence is absorbed by your vegetable.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Ito.
This is, yeah, that's Tatay Gio Espital. He is a mushroom grower. So
Uh-huh.
one day we went to visit his mushroom farm.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's
so,
part of the community.
yes, yes, yes. He's also part of the Good Food Group.
Okay.
So,
Sino to? Grabe ka.
I
No,
don't know what that is that I'm
I added
eating,
that
but
because this is just audience for you to see na hindi lang gulay yung kinakain ni Leia. Kumakain din siya ng ano, crispy pata. Siya yung
yeah,
nagbubusit.
my friends know I like to eat.
Yeah. Lalo na yung mga nakadikit-dikit na mga
Yes, yes,
malalagkit.
yes, yes, yes.
Mga
Actually,
collagen.
that's my favorite. I always get the head of the fish, the feet of the pig, the feet of the chicken.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, iba na to. Is this the same group?
No, some friends and also my daughter's there. There was a time I served as a cheese master for the Cheese Club of the Philippines.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what the photo is about. So it's the many hats that I wore in the
I
culinary
know.
world. Yeah.
You have to have another interview kasi nag-overtime na tayo
Ah,
pero eto na. So we end with that. But okay, speaking of cheese, meron ba tayo do we have a big potential to not just produce our own cheese but to export our own cheese?
hmm. Well, we the Philippines has a fantastic cheesemaker in Olive Puentespina.
In ano,
So
Davao. Yeah.
Malagos, yes.
Yes.
And I believe that nobody else in Asia, or maybe I dare say uh, Southeast Asia, or most of Asia, could have done what she has done, because she has actually reinvented cheese making in a tropical country. Because
Okay.
you cannot just copy what the Westerners do, because the weather is not the same. Our
Mhm.
climate is not the same.
Mhm.
So one really needs to be somebody who is a scientist and an artist put together, and a crafts woman put together in order to produce what she has produced. So she's making cheeses that the European chefs are wowed. One time, one of the Madrid Fusion events,
Mhm.
I helped man her booth, and I personally saw how impressed the European chefs were on the quality of the cheeses that she's able uh, to um, to develop.
Okay, actually meron na rin. We already have like Jackie Alieje was already producing her own ricotta. And then there's one, she's a hobby cheesemaker, si Belia Apelo. Shout out to Belia Apelo Bonner, who's also making her own. So I think there's an activity. Ang hoping ko lang is we will be able to package it well and send it abroad. Kasi for me, I'm feeling because this is revenge time
Mm.
after the pandemic, all these ideas that wanted to escape from our minds and that we wanted to do, like the book came out of the pandemic, right? So many ideas and products came out from there because they had the time. Now all we have to do is find the outlet for that. And
For
then-
I'm with you. The challenges would be infrastructure and cold chain. Cold chain. We're not used to exporting things that will go bad, and we
Okay.
are in a place where it's not, the weather is not cold, so things ferment very quickly. Things change very quickly. Things go bad very quickly without a cold chain. So that's infrastructure. That's is
What?
what is necessary. We have the products, but we have to have a means to export them.
Ah, yeah, I'm sure magkakaroon eh. Feeling ko lang eh kasi the online phenomenon has also leveled up supply chain, delivery, logistics. Anyway, um lastly, I would like you to tell us all about uh the vinegars, because you were telling me about vinegars. The reason being, for me lately, I have been reading about vinegars as a medicinal properties. Pero there are people who are so impressed here in Houston. Those who study my adobo, they ask. All they know is just one kind of vinegar. But when I tell them there's coconut vinegar, maple vinegar, sugarcane vinegar, all these vinegar, what? They're so surprised. Yeah.
Well, that's another fermented product. The
Oo.
vinegar is another fermented product, and we are blessed that because of the warmth of the country, fermentation is very fast and very quick. And
Yeah.
any fruit, almost any fruit can be turned into vinegar.
Okay.
One
Actually,
of the unique fruits that came out of the farmers that people were not familiar with, it's called the tamarillo.
ano yun?
You can Google it, but we have it.
Okay.
We have it indigenous locally, and it's red, so it makes a beautiful vinegar as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Tamarindo.
actually, you were earlier we were talking about the fermented vegetables.
Yes.
If you drink the juice of the naturally fermented vegetables, it's sour like vinegar. As in the earlier days, it's not so sour, but if you let it sit longer and longer, it becomes more and more sour.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's very rich in probiotics. So in the same manner that vinegars are.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gulay. That's what
Oh
I
my
have to say.
god!
Leia, you are so there is so much to learn from you and all the sharing. Well, before we end, kasi we've already extended.
Yeah.
Why don't you give a nice message to the audience? I'm sure their interests were perked up. But before that, you have greeters Ernest Barreiro who said hello, Leia, and then
Mm.
Penina, Leia, you're looking beautiful. Oh, that's
Who's that?
yeah. So give us a message that would really encourage and be dovetail with the new administration's focus now on agriculture para naman yung ating mga farmers, kasi alam mo, the farmers, their kids are leaving the farms. The kids are going into the city or to earn or call center or abroad. So they're
Mhm.
left, and these farmers are they like me, low-tech, dinosaur. So what will happen, di ba? So PBBM said he'll introduce new techniques and all, but from there, I think not just techniques or not just the situation now, but putting the seasonality. Please talk about that and encourage the audience.
Yes. Perhaps I will speak from the side of the consumer. No,
Yes.
that the basically the responsibility for food is not just with the farmer. The responsibility of us as consumers is to make sure that we have something good to consume. So we should share in the responsibility. We should make that be felt with what we are willing to pay for, what we are willing to support, what we are willing to eat in order to support the farmers, in order to support the soil. The
Mhm.
soil gets destroyed if we want convenience, or that we want things that are not in season, as long as it's what we want. You know, we need to learn to get in touch with nature again, so that it is better for our health, it's better for the planet, it's better for the soil, it's better for the farmers. And you're right, it's very sad that that the young people don't want to be farmers anymore because they've seen their elder generations uh,
Not getting.
be poor all their lives. And
Yes,
who wants
yes,
that? Who
yeah.
wants that? So yes, we need to um, be willing to pay for better quality, uh, which means that at home we also have to learn to consume them mindfully and not make them go to waste. You see, I see many households, they don't want to pay expensive vegetables because so that they don't have to think about it if they go bad. You know,
Mm.
it makes them feel better that they can
So,
justify throwing things away because anyway it's cheap, you
yeah.
know. So overall that entire uh, that entire mindset does not help anyone. So in order for us to work together and to prosper together, we
Mm-hmm.
have to be inclusive in our way of life. And food is so important. It's something that sustain us, that comfort us, that we need to support our family with.
Okay. All right. From nose to tail, fruit to root, peeling tomatoes, thinking of the seasons of vegetables, from smoking coconut to harnessing the heat of the wok to the wok hay, something we knew we learned, to burning cabbage to even the tamarillo, which I'm going to Google.
Mhm.
All these things are really not enough time for learning from Leako. And Leako is not that does not just come from a rich culinary DNA, but she's living it. She's living it and sharing it with so many people, whether she's here in Houston and or back in Manila, because this is really an awesome planet. And as you said, we have to be responsible. And one of the best examples as an awesome citizen in the awesome planet is Leako. So, Leako, thank you very much for being our guest and inspiring us. I'm now going to buy cabbage and I'm going to burn it. And I'm going to look for that taste, the sweetness. And I'm
Mhm.
also going to plant the seeds of this giant okra.
Okra.
Yeah. And those who want to buy the book, just look into Good Food Community Inc. and just Google it, and I guess that you'll be led to Charlene Tan and her group, and
Yes.
also go to ano yan sa show for
Good
the
Food Sundays.
Good
The
Food
Sunday market.
Sunday. Yeah,
Yeah, Sunday
yeah.
market.
Yeah. So all these things puts a refreshing turn into our lives. Na we have a new administration, we have new goals, we have new desires, and we have new conviction. So thank you very much again, Leah, for being an inspiration and staying as my friend. I love you and audience.
Love you too, Nancy.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening,
Good
and have an
morning and good
awesome life.
evening.
God is good.
Yes.
Bye, Leah.
Bye.
Thank you. Leah.